one and all present here. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So, welcome back to the 10th Para series organized by SIGN. SIGN stands for Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay. My name is Ganga and I'm part of the SIGN team. What really started off as a modest, humble attempt to help startups interact with experts, to know the hows and whats of dealing, with the pandemic situation, the challenges, has actually grown from strength to strength. The response to every Para series have been extremely overwhelming and reassuring. And in today's session, while the registration, we are close to 280 registration. I think by now we have crossed 300. And that indeed is a very gratifying moment to all of us at SIGN and the speakers who've actually taken time out of their valuable space and engage and have agreed to engage with all of us. Very kind of them. So we've so far had sessions on leadership, finance, marketing, digital marketing, funding, legal perspectives, all about incubation by our SIGN team. And these were conducted by some eminent experts and practitioners in their own field. Today, it's my privilege and honor to introduce the speaker, Mr. Raj Jaswa. Mr. Raj Jaswa is an accomplished serial, technology entrepreneur. He will be speaking on a topic which is the need of the hour, mastering selling skills for the entrepreneur. We welcome you, sir. Mr. Raj Jaswa teaches semester courses as Foundation in Engineering Entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay, IIT Gandhinagar, BNIT Nagpur, and TIE Silicon Valley. Mr. Raj also has served TIE's Global Board of Trustees for about 5 years. Before TIE, Mr. Raj has had an illustrious career in the corporate side. He was a co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Selectica till 2002. He also co-founded Opti in 1988, where he served first as an EVP of Sales, Marketing, and then President. Earlier in his career, Mr. Raj worked for Intel, General Electric, and Chips and Technologies. Mr. Raj holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from IIT Bombay, a master's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Toronto, and an MBA from Stetson University. As we speak now, he's addressing all of us from California. Before I hand over the screen to Mr. Raj Jaswa, we would like to inform the participants that the format of the session would be as follows. Based on the questions and the insights Mr. Raj Jaswa has on the topic today, there would be a discussion from Mr. Raj Jaswa, post which, if time permits, there would be Q&A which will be taken up from the participants. So while the session is on, the participants may choose to write their queries on the Q&A session, which you can see on the right of the screen. So we thank you, all of you, for joining us today in this session. And we also have our CEO, Ms. Koini Bhatt, with us today in our session. Welcome aboard, all of you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm very happy to participate in this seminar. And I'm really gratified by the large number of attendees, entrepreneurs that are participating in this session, because I was entrepreneur for the last 25 years, and I was thinking back and saying, why did it took me almost 15 years before I started my first company, and I said, why did it take me so long? And I realized that the biggest shortcoming that I had was that I just could not sell my ideas. I could not sell my products. I could not convince people to invest in my company. I could not convince people about the potential or the vision that I saw. So this was, I realized, my biggest shortcoming, and which basically had kept me away from something that I had always longed to do, which was start a company. for the first 15, 17 years of my career. So, I had all the education, all the degrees. I had the bachelor's, the master's, the MBA. I had, almost 15 years of work experience before I started my first company. And, entrepreneurship has obviously caught the world by storm because when we look at it, we find that now the richest man is is an entrepreneur, and he started his company, right in front of us, less than uh, 25 years ago. And the same thing is true in India too. And the most successful people, the people that we look upon as the heroes, are entrepreneurs. And the thing is, what is an entrepreneur's biggest weakness? And for me, it was sales. And I have pretty high degree of confidence that it is selling skills that really slows down our progress, sometimes even stops the entrepreneur from succeeding. And it's something that most entrepreneurs never get uh, trained on. So this is basically when I started teaching entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay, IIT Gandhinagar, and other colleges, and to other entrepreneurs. I felt that this is one skill that needs to be developed. Now, is sales a talent or a skill? I think to be the world's greatest salesman, uh, skill has to combine with talent. And so but an entrepreneur does not need to be the world's greatest salesman. He just needs to be a very, very good salesman. So he his talents might be, and most likely, are going to be in engineering or in marketing, but that does not mean that he's not a very, very good salesman. So I want to, I'm going to, when I was teaching this course to some other classes, to my IIT Gandhinagar class and entrepreneurship course I gave at Time Mumbai, uh, I said, I've taught you everything about sales process and how to sell, which is what I'm going to do in the next 45 minutes. But what I want you to see is what the world's greatest salesman looks like. And I brought in my best salesman that I've seen in my career. His name is Rob Milks. And he was my salesman who brought in my biggest sale uh, to IBM for $56 million of software and license fees and maintenance fees. So we brought him in front of the class and interviewed him. And that entire video clip is now on YouTube, or you can find it on my Facebook channel, Raj Jaswa, and you can see basically the Q&A as well as his talk, and you'll see what happens when talent meets selling skills, right? When the two come together, you have the greatest salesman. Now, all of us are not naturally talented in sales, so we are not going to be the greatest salesman. But if we are very good salespeople, we that is adequate. We can hire the greatest salespeople, as I did. But so what you're going to learn today is how to become a very, very good salesperson and work on. I'm going to identify probably a lot of shortcomings in your personality and in your approach and in your and these have to be worked on. the networking skills, the communication skills, the planning skills, the preparation, the listening skills, the negotiating skills. All of these are not natural skills for most entrepreneurs, but they can all be developed. So I'm going to be identifying a lot of skills that uh, you probably have not put in effort in order to do, but without them, it's going to be very, very hard to build your company, and you may actually end up having to bring in somebody else to run your company in order to who has these skill sets. Now, I believe that an entrepreneur who's struggled and built up a company to a certain stage, um, if he had just put in a little bit other effort to develop some selling skills, negotiating skills, communication skills, networking skills, then basically that person uh, could easily continue to grow and continue to run uh, the largest companies, as we have seen in the case of quite a few recent super successes in the entrepreneurial world, right? So let's move on to this particular slide. I think this particular slide is probably the finest slide that I have seen in sales training, in understanding the sales process, and gives me a platform in order to go ahead and go ahead and explain, what is happening during the sales process and how to make that particular stage successful. Okay, so if you look at this particular diagram, first of all, the title says that this particular sales strategy can be used for selling products, selling service, selling a business, or even raising money or capitalization deals. So the same sales strategy can be used for all of these things. And clearly, an entrepreneur, one day he's selling a product, next day he's selling his business, or selling some business proposition, making a business proposal, or he is raising money. So clearly, this sales process completely, or strategy completely applies to what you are going to be doing as an entrepreneur. So you notice that this particular sales strategy, if you look at the diagram in the middle, it shows a diamond with, which is actually broken up into 5 intersecting diamonds. So what are these diamonds? The first diamond, if you start at the top, is relationship. And if we go clockwise, the next diamond is called process. Then the following diamond is called value. The last diamond on the left is options. And then the diamond in the middle is called the economic logic, right? So there are these 5 intersecting diamonds, and essentially the way you traverse this particular diagram is you start from relationship, you go to process. Once you successfully establish relationship, then you go to the discovery process where you understand the customer's needs. Then you basically sell to the problems that the customer or needs that the customer has got. That's where you sell the value. Then you discuss all the options about how the transaction would be done. And finally, the most important step is to not only understand, not only have a successful sales meeting, but to capture that the essence of that sales meeting and communicate the economic logic. The goal of selling is to create win-win deals. In business, there is no such thing as I win, you lose kind of sales transaction. In business, every transaction needs to be win. With and your will enable you to go ahead and figure out what the win is for the customer, so that when you make the sale and make the profit, you get your win, right? So basically, we are trying to get is if they get the lowest price. But whoever has done business for a long time knows that the lowest price is rarely the win. Something that solves a real problem get the customer to understand what the customer's real need is. So, and then, when they structure the solution, then, and promote and makes and gets gets the vendor's win, right? So the whole objective is to extract the real customer's need and the right solution for the customer, so that it is so so that is the ultimate goal of the sales transaction. uh, Please feel free to go ahead and ask questions as they pop up in your head, rather than collecting them to the end. I can look at the questions, and so can the sign moderators, and we will either answer them in flow, or we'll answer them, at the end of the session. So, I will help solve the real need of the customer, capturing it in the economic logic, so that a sales transaction happens, which results in you finally getting paid for the value that you delivered, and and the customer gets satisfied by the service. And the reason why you want a win-win is something that I just want to quickly go over, because most people know it but don't really understand it. So we all know that the cost of sales is very high. The process, under, developing trust, understanding need, promoting the solution, negotiating, that takes time and money. And so on. So that is very expensive. So a company makes a profit only on repeat business from a customer. They they always actually lose money on the first sale. In fact, the first sale is very, very expensive. So no matter how much profit that seems to come from the transaction, it was actually in real terms a loss, right? So what are we? So what we are trying to do is figure out through the first win-win transaction a customer for life, and with tons and tons of repeat business. And this is important to understand so that every customer that you deal with, you are not looking at a short term, one time transaction. You're looking at a transaction that happens for a lifetime, right? And the lifetime value of that customer is what we are trying to capture in this negotiation, in this selling process. So sales is never about just one transaction. It is, you are looking at the lifetime value of that sales transaction, right? So that is a important message that I want to communicate, so that you learn the importance of spending the time to do the right kind of sales transaction. Okay, so what is this? What are these five diamonds, and why do they have to go in a certain way, right? So we've understood the objective, which was win-win. We've understood the objective, which is to discover the needs of the customer and propose the right solution. And we have understood the third point we understood is the need for looking at each sale as the start of a lifelong relationship or business with that customer, so it becomes a repeat customer, so that future sales bring in profit, right? So that these 3 points you should is what we have gone over. So the next point that we want to understand is, what is this? Why the flow? Why do we have to first develop trust and then understand the needs of the customer? Why can I not just go ahead and ask the customer, hey, what's your budget for this particular product? Who are the other competitors you're looking at? Do you really have the authority to spend this money? Who else is approval? Why not just ask these questions? And so that, or say, hey, I already know what your need is. You need to have this next generation uh, smartphone, because look, it's got a, and you start promoting all the features and benefits. So why not just go into that, or why not just start negotiating the price? And believe it or not, a lot of people think that is sales. Sales is where you just go ahead and start talking about the features of your product. And other people feel that sales is, how much do you want to spend? And, you know, let's let's negotiate the price. So they jump to step number 4, which is options, or step number 3, that is value, and they find that they are going to be rejected 99% of the time, and they don't move the sale. And then they run to the next customer and the next customer and the next customer, and that is unfortunately the the story of most sales. They are salesmen. They are looking for they're looking to get a commission, and they don't know the sales process. Same thing with entrepreneurs. They which customer has their need, and immediately they take it and say, "Oh, look at how wonderful this gadget is, can solve this problem," and the customer during customer discovery, they're so infatuated with the amazing idea or the amazing product or the amazing service that they've come up with that that they just start pitching it to person to people without even and when they get rejected, they lose their heart. And after they get 99 rejections, then they out of 100 they're going to give up. And that is really the sad story of entrepreneurs trying to do customer discovery without understanding, even the ABC of selling and also strategy. And so what is this ABC of sales strategy? So basically, I said it's these 5 diamonds, interlinked diamonds, and you start from the top and then going clockwise and then finally to the center. So we start with relationship or trust building. And so basically, what it says is that before you start even trying to sell a product to a customer or to figure out a win-win deal, you need to figure out if the customer trusts you implicitly, if there is trust between the two parties, that if I do this, will you do this for me? That is called trust. Uh, that as time went on, in the companies that I built, more and more I came to the conclusion that what matters is really the handshake deal rather than the contract, right? So, and the handshake deal means that there is a huge amount of trust between the two parties. So, 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 so basically, the first thing that needs to be established between the two parties is trust. And trust is something where you implicitly go ahead and believe that if your expectation is this, the other party is going to work very hard to satisfy your expectation. That is called trust. And you can see that it's built on 5 parameters. Longevity, how long have you known it? So, for me, you know, I I left IIT almost 43 years ago, 45 years ago, and I have a relationship with my IIT buddies, which is 45 years long. And guess what? I trust all my IIT buddies implicitly because we've got 45 years of history and relationship between them, and so many things have happened where uh, each party met each other's expectations. So that longevity and history are very strong pillars of establishing trust. Uh, the third point was partnership, which is, if you work together uh, on, on a big deal or on any deal that you have gone together and solved a problem, that establishes a lot of trust. Sometimes you don't have a relationship, you don't have longevity, you've not known the person, there's no history, there's no partnership. But if you've studied their problem, the customer's problem, you understand where they're coming from. You understand, the context of how their business works. To show that you understand their problem, hey, they start trusting you, which is what consultants do. Consultants essentially understand the context of the customer's problem so well, in fact, better than the customer, that is basically people who have the problem and are looking for a solution start trusting the consultant. And finally, a social contract. So what social contract means is that, if there is some sort of understanding that, hey, we are all concerned about climate change. So we need to have green solutions. So that is where both of us essentially will start saying, hey, we are in this together and we need to trust each other, right? So you can see that trust is built on these 5 pillars, and the salesman's job is to establish trust at the start of the sales meeting. So whether it is established in 10 seconds, as it might happen with an ID buddy who you had for 45 years, or you are a well-known consultant in the industry, you're a famous personality, so that they trust you implicitly with their technical problems. Or it might take 15, 20, 30 minutes to establish that trust, and again get the customer to feel comfortable that if I tell my needs and share my and give business to this particular vendor, he will go and deliver what I need whenever I need it, right? So that is called trust. So once trust has been established, what happens? Now you can ask the personal questions. Now you have the green light to ask the personal questions. So that's why it's colored in green, right? So you have the green light to go ahead and start the discovery process. Important words, discovery process. You're discovering the customer's needs. And DAWN is an acronym. Basically, it says, hey, how big is the project? Do you have the authority to approve it, or do I need to go ahead and convince a few other people? Do you have the willingness to go ahead and start the project right now? How important is your need? How much, if this particular problem is not solved, how desperate are you going to be? So how big is the need? So DAWN is what you get from the customer. Here you're listening. You're not talking. You're listening during the DAWN process. If you start talking during the discovery process, guess what? The customer immediately stops talking. The customer says, why do I need to tell you all this stuff? And suddenly his brain goes and says, why am I telling all this stuff? And so you have to shut up and you have to listen. And you have to listen very intently. And you have to take notes. And you have to prioritize the needs that you're hearing from the customer. The customer may not be eloquent. I've done business in probably 40 countries, and 35 of them I did not know the language, and yet, if I could not figure out the prioritized needs of the customer, how am I going to sell them? How am I going to tell them how I'm going to solve their problems or needs, right? So, and what should be your behavior be? Professional and respectful. If they're speaking broken English, if they need a translator, you have to be respectful, and you've got to extract all the needs. It's not just the immediate need for the product. What are the future needs? What are the testing and qualification needs? When does the customer really need the solution? What are their deadlines? They have to be willing to share, and that will happen only if you've established trust and if you go through the discovery process uh, in the right way, which is professionally and respectfully. Okay. And keep asking those questions till you're completely satisfied that you understand what need and what is the total situation at the customer side with regards to solving that problem, right? The budget, the authority, the willingness, the timing, the testing, the qualification, who else is going to be involved. So all of that needs to be figured out during the discovery process. Now, guess what? You as a vendor have to be thinking in your head as you're listening and making those prioritized needs. How should I sell the product? Is he interested in the solution? Is he interested? Is he a very budget oriented person that he needs to understand the value of what he's getting? So, value selling. Uh, is he somebody that needs to feel comfortable that, I not only understand this problem, but I can be his partner for the entire journey and do consultative selling? Or should I provide a solution sell? So, how you sell depends on what you got during the discovery. You might be selling the same product, but the same product can be sold in a solution selling mode. If you do this, Mr. Customer, all of these other things will uh, will have to be done. And guess what? I have partnerships with all the other vendors, and we can bring the solution together. I'll take the responsibility for bringing the solution together, and your problem will be solved, right? So that becomes a solution selling, and depending on the personality and the kind of process need that you discover, you promote solution selling. Then you do consultative selling. When do you do consultative selling? You do consultative selling when the customer feels that he doesn't have full understanding of what is really going on with his particular problem. Is this something that what are the other consequences of that particular problem? So in that particular situation, you do something called consultative selling, so that you come across as the expert. You are the expert, the guru, who will not only provide this product, but also provide you guidance. How should the evolution of your smartphones be? What should be the evolution of your network? What should be the, how should you go ahead and decide to choose a car? So consultative selling is where, depending on the customer's personality, you might have to go and do consultative selling. Or, some people are very budget conscious. That's a big portion of what most customers are. They all have a limit, and as to what they can sell, they would like to get the cheapest, not the cheapest, but the best price. And so you have to sell the value of having this. And so it is all, you always sell based on the customer's perception of what they need. Okay, you don't sell based on, hey, I've got this one product and this is the price and this is the features and benefits, and sell it. So that is not how you sell. You sell value. Okay, so that is how you sell. Now, most people think that, wow, I've finished my job. The customer is happy, and they think the sale is done. but professional salespeople know the real sale is done when the customer pays for the transaction. And for that, two more steps are necessary. Uh, only when the customer pays for the transaction do you really have a sale that the sale is really done. So in order for the customer says, wow, I'm very happy, this is going to work, yes, we are going to go ahead with this project, or I'm going to take this product. Why do you have to go into the next stage, which is options? The reason is that the devil is in the details of any transaction. So you have to figure out what is going to be the payment procedure, what are the payment terms, what happens if the project is rejected, what happens if you're delayed in delivering the product, all of those options have to be negotiated, uh, and that requires you to be adversarial sometimes. Negotiation never works when you are buddy-buddy. During the trust, process, and value portion, you were buddy-buddy. Suddenly, you are sitting across the table, and suddenly you have to act a little bit strong and say, Mr. Customer, I know you want the product in 10 days, but we can only give it to you in 22 days. Or, Mr. Customer, we need to get paid 10% before we ship the product, as so that we can go ahead and book your product instead of selling it to somebody else. So you have to make a 10% payment upfront. So these are all items that need to be negotiated. It requires you to be adversarial. However, because you went through the trust discovery and promoting the value process, guess what? You understand the customer so well, and the customer trusts you so much that even the negotiation, even though you have to take a strong position on a few items, you still go ahead and are able to make this into a win-win negotiation. Remember, just like sales needs to be win-win, negotiations need to be win-win. There is no such thing as I win, you lose in a negotiation. So even in negotiations, you might have to take an adversarial position across the table transaction, and there are things that the customer has to accept that are non-negotiable from your viewpoint, and that they have to make the 10% upfront payment. We have to go ahead and take delivery on this particular date. This is the returns policy. This is the payment policy. You can say that on this particular product, there is such big demand that we need to get paid in 15 days. We cannot be paid in 45 days, which may be your payment policy. We have to be paid in 15 days. And all of, whatever the situation might be from a vendor standpoint has to be communicated and done. And the reason is that as an entrepreneur, for example, very often you are short of cash. Most entrepreneurs I know are always struggling with cash flow, and making the salary payments, etc., etc. So, you know, um, you might say that, look, customer, I'm very happy that you want my product. It's going to cost 10 lakh rupees, but I need to get paid upfront 25%. 2.5 lakhs I need to get paid. And you have to be able to negotiate that, because if you don't get the 2.5 lakh rupees, you're not going to make salary this month. So, you know, uh, all kinds of things are come up during options that need to be negotiated. But since you went through the buddy process of trust, discovery, and value selling, you know, there is a basis of personal emotional commitment to making this transaction happen uh, for each other. That so interest trumps position. Okay, so uh, however, sometimes, if you cannot get that 25% upfront, and if there's no way that you can uh, take the customer's business, you have to do back now, which is say, okay, um, sorry, Mr. Customer, we'd love to do this deal with you, but right now we cannot take your thing, and you say that, look, in the future, 3 months from now or 6 months from now, once venture capitalist invests in our company, we'll be able to do this particular deal, right? So BATNA is where you always figure out that it's okay to walk away, right? So not walk away in a confrontative way, but walk away from the deal in a way that leaves the door open for future deals, right? So, but you have to be ready to walk away, and that's what BATNA does. So, once all the terms and conditions have been worked out, now a lot of salespeople say, okay, the deal is done. Look, I've written everything down in my notebook, and the deal is done. And guess what? The PO never shows up. Why? Because the customer, and 99% of the customers, will not be taking the notes that you've been taking. The customer will forget why he felt that you were the best vendor for the solution. He's going to forget that you were the perfect solution for his problem. Or he may not have the ability to convince his boss, his manager, or his other departments that, you are the right vendor, because of all of the reasons that you communicated during the value selling and the terms and conditions that you negotiated. So the customer may not be able to communicate the value for the services being delivered. So guess whose responsibility it is? It's your responsibility as the vendor to go ahead and communicate this economic logic in such a convincing, precise way, through a memo, through a memorandum of understanding, through a proposal, but something that gives the customer the collateral to go ahead and get the purchase order generated. And when you confirm the purchase order, then the transaction is confirmed. And actually, the reason that I found this documenting this economic logic is so important in an MOU or a business proposal or is that when you finally want to get paid for it, guess what? You have to convince the accounts payable department to go ahead and give you the payment. So this economic logic document, you hand it over to not only the customer, but you also send it to your accounts payable department, your higher management, so that everybody in the organization knows the commitments that have been made on both sides from this sales transaction meeting that you just had. Okay, so these 5 steps are not something that you'll become very good at instantaneously. It is a lifelong process, but at least now you understand how there are 5 diamonds or 5 stages that every sales transaction, whether it's for a product, service, business, raising money, have to be gone through in before a sale is properly done. With that, let's see if there are any questions. We've got about 10 minutes left.
Yeah, so there is a question which actually one of our sign incubators, Kaushik Banerjee, has raised. So the question he raised half an hour back. So with your permission, can we request him to explain the question, because he's asking for a couple of points. So can I ask Swati to just enable his audio, please? Yeah, Swati, can you enable Kaushik's audio?
Yes, ma'am.
Kaushik, can you ask your question once the audio is enabled?
Meanwhile, there is also another question, which is like, when we recruit sales people in our team, what should be the traits that we look for? So Raj, first let Kaushik ask her, and then you can answer the next question as well.
Sure.
Thanks, Bonnie. Raj, I have a couple of questions. One is to understand that, say, during the sales process, there are some customers who sort of look at the value and immediately kind of decide on, okay, whether they want to go ahead or not. But there are also certain scenarios where they require or request a lot of documentation to come, like say maybe a formal proposals, and I'm kind of doing both of them with 2 different brands, and both are big. Right? Some are ready to go ahead and expose you to their internal process even without an NDA. Right? So, but again, may not translate to anything. Right? So, how do we know when a sales process is sort of lingering or the customer is undecided, and maybe they are undecided for any number of reasons? So, but we need to stop or cut our losses. Right? So, when do we know that? That is one part of the question. The other part is, can you kind of describe certain scenarios that you have in the selling process, some conversations that have happened and what the results have been? Basically, again, to sort of alluding to my previous question on, how do we decide how the process is moving? What are the indicators that the customers are saying that we need to kind of understand, and based on that, maybe take a call of, okay, whether this is a purely cost-based sale or that's the only care about, or there is something else that's in there, or they're undecided, they don't have a budget right now, maybe any number of reasons.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I think you explained real life situations very, very well, because this happens all the time, right? Some customers, say, hey, I really need this product. Tell me how much it is. I understand everything there is to know about this. I know exactly what problem I want to solve. Just give me the answer because I've got no time, right? So this is, and this is where actually, guess what? In my opinion, most entrepreneurs are falling into a trap. And the reason why I say that is because they have not established trust with the customer. They don't really understand all the dimensions of the problems with the customer, and they've been just asked to give a quote, right? Guess what? Most likely, the customer has already chosen some other vendor, and now he's grabbing the information from you in order to justify his competitive analysis so that he can essentially explain to his management why he chose the other vendor. So, or, you are counting your blessings, how quickly the sale went, and guess what? Most likely you were just a tool for somebody else, right? So that is what happens in most cases when you haven't gone through the sales process correctly. In the other case, you are doing all these proposals and you're writing this stuff and that stuff, and time is just dragging on. So you're wondering, how much investment should I make, or should I just cut my losses and move on? And again, in my viewpoint, that is basically something went wrong in the sales process that I just described. Maybe you're talking to the wrong person. He's not got the full authority. So which means that, during the discovery you did not establish enough trust in order to understand what's really going on in the customer's company. So you can see that, if you had a very good salesperson, or you executed the sales process that I explained today really well, and then you would have the ability to understand all the dimensions of what's going on in the company. And if the person who says, is the purchasing guy who keeps on saying, hey, just send me the proposal, but he does not understand the technology, the dimensions of your proposal, or the consequences, or any of that stuff. So what happens is that, you are shooting in the blind, in the dark. So so the way I look at it is the person who's at mistake is always you, not the customer. You have not executed the sales process. You have not discovered the need properly. You have not established the trust to get the customer to tell you everything. So never blame the customer. Blame it on yourself. You are the person that needs to change and improve in order to go ahead and handle this problem properly. Let me move on to, so all of you guys, if you have continued problems or want to go into more detail, feel free to go ahead and connect with me via WhatsApp or via Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I connect with probably hundreds, if not thousands, of entrepreneurs and discuss, specific issues that they may have. So feel free to do that because, we have probably just a minute or so left. But I don't want to get to Puneet's question. It's a very good question.
Sure.
The hardest person to hire is a good salesperson. And the reason is that every salesperson is so much smarter than you in terms of selling themselves that as an entrepreneur, you love every person who comes to interview with you for a sales job. You love them because they are good at selling. They are good at establishing trust with you. They are good at understanding what your criteria are for hiring, and then they are good at basically selling you the value of hiring them. I mean, that's what salespeople do day in, day out. So they are going to sell you, and you are going to make the mistake of hiring the wrong salesperson probably 95% of the time. 1 in 20 is a good hire. So so basically, very easy to hire wrong salesperson. So Over time, you'll become better, but you'll still have a very high mistake rate. So what you have to do is learn to fire as soon as you figure out uh, that somebody is not the right salesperson for you. Fire as quickly as possible. So uh, that is sounds brutal, but it's not, because salesmen makes money only when they sell on a commission basis. So they don't want to be a salesperson for a company whose product they cannot sell. So you don't want him either. So both of you are losers when you don't fire a salesman quickly. So if you make mistakes, fire quickly. And number two is that, check the previous success rate of the salesman. So check something called their actual, in US we call it W-4, or basically their income tax records, to find out exactly how much money they made. Great salespeople make lots of money, and those are the people that you want to hire. People that make lots of commission money are the salespeople that you want to hire. So um, it's the best metric for a salesperson, how much money they have made in the previous jobs or the previous years. And because, your ability to understand how good they are from an interview process is very, very low, no matter how good an entrepreneur you are. So if you make a mistake, fire, and check their previous sales commissions through the income tax submissions in order to figure out if they're great salespeople or not. Okay. Any more questions?
Dr. Jaswa, we have a question from Mr. Abhishek Jain. He's asking that what is the difference between sales in India and USA? How to start sales operation in USA? Are resellers a good idea?
Okay. That question covers so much territory. But I would say that the sales process does not change. Whether I'm selling to Chinese in Taiwan, or whether I'm selling to Koreans, whether I'm selling to Finnish people, Nokia in Finland, Italians, or Indians, same sales process. So nothing changes with regards to the sales process. The thing that does change is that the culture, values, ethics are going to be different in every country and every ethnic group. So basically, as the vendor, you need to understand their culture and their values, right? So believe it or not, the number one thing that Chinese suppliers are looking for, or partner or customers are looking for, is trust. One would think that they're all looking for price. Absolutely wrong. They are looking for trust. Why are they looking for trust? They know that there are business cycles. Prices can go up, prices can come down. And if they sign a contract with you as a vendor or a buyer, and the prices in the business have crashed, they want to know that you will support them outside the contract in order to say that they don't go out of business, right? So they work on very low margins. That is their mindset. But low margins only work if they have partners who they can trust as their customers, right? So, so lots and lots of things to learn. That's what makes global business so exciting. But so I would say that same sales diamond, but different people will put different weightage on each of those diamonds. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. There's another question from Dr. Anirvan. He's asking that when we are upselling a deep tech solution and we have succeeded in getting the interest in the first interaction, how do we embed the urgency?
Very good question, because again, as I said during my presentation, a lot of entrepreneurs get super excited when somebody empathizes or resonates with the deep tech or the advanced technology solution that they've come up with, right? So that becomes very exciting for the entrepreneur, that there is one another person who seems to love, who gets it, right? So that is the hardest thing for an entrepreneur, so to find that somebody else gets it. But we have to, the job is to convert that gets it into a business transaction, a sales transaction, where you get paid for that deep tech idea. That requires going through the sales channel, right? So now you've got his interest. Now you have to find out his authority, his willingness, testing and qualification needs, all that. Who else is going to influence the decision to buy or not buy, or the requirements about what needs to happen for the new technology to come in. So that is the discovery process. That is what we went through. So now, so based on the discovery process, you can figure out, is this customer the kind of person who can work with my company at this stage? At this stage, I may not have the ability to provide all the testing information, QA information, quality assurance information, or financial reliable financial depth in my company to handle supporting him for the next 10 years. So, you have to figure out um, if there is a way to work around those issues. But that'll happen only if you do a proper discovery, and that'll happen only if you have a deep trust developed with the customer. Okay.
Probably the last question of the session. A person like Dr. Ajay Chakrabarti is asking, since sales process is time consuming and time is equal to money, up to what share of the total product cost must be kept aside for sales activity during the market entry?
Yeah. So actually, the way I look at it right now for selling high-tech products, which is probably what most sign entrepreneurs are doing, is that you have to go through something called Jeffrey Moore's TALC, Technology Adoption Lifecycle Curve, right? So we haven't covered this in this session, but I want everybody to write down Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm information. There's a lot of it on the information on the internet, and you should even purchase the book and read it. But for sign type entrepreneurs, that stage is critical, and understanding TLC, or Technology Adoption Lifecycle Curve, is critical to their success. And because it's going to save you from wasting your time with customers who really should be approached at a later stage in the evolution of your company. So your goal is to connect with the right type of customer at the right stage of your company. So during early stage, when you're trying to test out your idea, the product is not completely done, you want to get feedback. At that point, you need to get evangelist kind of customers, who are people who are willing to work with you even though the product is not completely done, right? So depending on the stage of your own company's evolution, you have to find customers that map into that. If you try to sell your product to a very conservative, old-fashioned company, no matter how great your solution is, it's just not going to you're not going to be able to sell it, right? So you're just not ready for this kind of technology coming from a startup, right? So you have to find the champion in these companies that, and if you find them, then great. Okay.
Yes. Yes, very much, sir. So with this, we are at the end of the session. Very insightful. It is always a great learning from your side, Dr. Raj Jaswa. And I think this is my probably the second session. I have heard of you, and it was like pleasure learning from you. So there is one announcement from our side. I'll just share. In the first week of August, there are few call for applications are coming. These are the various exciting funding opportunities, probably for the entrepreneurs and startups who are still at the idea stage or a POC stage. So these are prototyping grant and the fellowship from the Department of Science and Technology and METI. The call for application will open in first week of August, probably. For that, please keep on visiting our website. For the entrepreneurs and enthusiasts in the domain of healthcare, biotechnology, agriculture, there is an opportunity from Department of Biotechnology by BIRAGS, Biotechnology Ignition Grant, and funding up to 50 lakh of Indian rupees is at stake. The call for application will open from 1st of August. And for that, it's actually online process. You need to apply on the website of BIRAG for birag.nic.in. If you have any queries, please write to us on sign_big@signiitb.org. So with this, thank you very much, all of you, for joining us at Power Hour at Saturday evening, late evening, and stay tuned to next series of sessions from Sign Power Hour. There will be like exciting. We are going to cover some exciting topics on which will help further in writing a good grant proposal. Yeah, thank you very much, all of you.
Shraddha, you can show the slide of Sign website, the next one.
I hope it is visible. You can also write to our business development team, bd@signiitb.org, for any query related to incubation.
Yeah, so we can log out. Raj, thank you very much. Really appreciate your weekend morning for that you have spent with us. Yeah, and have a nice weekend to you.
Thanks, Poini, for the invite. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, guys. Thank you.